There is a stretch of ocean at the bottom of the world, where the sea does not behave like the rest of the planet's water. Sailors who have crossed every other ocean on Earth say this one is different, not rough in the normal sense. Different. A place where a 600-mile crossing can take 2 calm days, or it can take 2 days that a person remembers for the rest of their life, if they survive it at all. It is called the Drake Passage, and it sits between the southern tip of South America and the icy edge of Antarctica. On a map, it looks like nothing, just open blue space between 2 coastlines. But sailors have a name for what happens out there. They call it the Drake Shake, and on the rare days when it doesn't happen, they call it the Drake Lake, because the difference between the two is so extreme that it needs 2 separate names. Before we go further, comment below with one word. Would you cross it, yes or no? And if you're new here, subscribe, because this channel exists to take you to the parts of this planet most people will never see with their own eyes. Now let's go to the bottom of the world. To understand why this 600-mile gap of water has this kind of reputation, you have to understand what it actually is. The Drake Passage is the point where 3 oceans meet. The Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Southern Ocean all converge in this single narrow channel, squeezed between the tip of South America and the Antarctic Peninsula. Everywhere else on Earth, when ocean currents move around the globe, land gets in the way. Continents slow them down. Coastlines break them up. But here, at 56 degrees south, there is no land at all circling the planet at that latitude. Nothing to block the wind, nothing to block the current. That means the wind can circle the entire Earth without ever hitting a coastline to slow it down, and the water follows the same rule. This unbroken loop is called the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, and it is the largest ocean current on the planet, carrying more water than any other current system on Earth. When that much moving water and that much unblocked wind get forced into a 600-mile gap between 2 land masses, the result is one of the most violent convergences of weather anywhere on the surface of this planet. Waves out here are not measured the way waves are measured on a normal ocean crossing. In 2017, a scientific buoy positioned in the passage recorded a wave 60 feet tall. That is the largest wave ever recorded in the entire southern hemisphere. 60 feet is taller than a 5-story building, rising and falling in the middle of open water with nothing around for hundreds of miles, except more water doing the same thing. This place has been feared for exactly as long as people have been sailing through it. It's named after Sir Francis Drake, the 16th century English explorer, after his fleet was blown south into these waters during a storm, and he realized the 2 continents did not connect the way earlier maps assumed. Before the Panama Canal opened in 1914, ships moving between the Atlantic and Pacific had only one option if they wanted to avoid an impossibly long trip around the other side of the world. They had to go around Cape Horn, straight through this passage. Between 1850 and 1900 alone, at least 100 sailing ships were lost attempting that crossing. Some were carrying prospectors and supplies bound for the California gold rush. They never made it. Their ships were found broken apart on the rocks or never found at all. For centuries, rounding the Horn wasn't just a difficult voyage. It was the single most dangerous stretch of water a working sailor could be assigned to cross. Old maritime folklore holds that sailors who survived a crossing around Cape Horn earned the right to wear a gold earring in their left ear, the ear that faced the Horn on the journey. It was a mark that told other sailors, without a single word, that this person had been through something most people never would. You would think that in the modern era, with satellite weather tracking, stabilized hulls, and reinforced steel, this crossing would have lost its danger. It has not, because in the last 2 decades something changed. Tourism to Antarctica exploded. Thousands of travelers now pay to cross the Drake Passage every single year, on their way to see penguins, icebergs, and the last untouched continent on Earth. And the passage does not care how much a ticket cost. In late November of 2022, a cruise ship called the Viking Polaris was crossing the Drake Passage when a rogue wave struck the vessel and shattered a window on one of the upper decks. A 62-year-old American passenger was killed. 4 others were injured. This was not an old wooden ship from the age of sail. This was a modern polar-class vessel, built specifically to handle extreme conditions with reinforced glass and a hull designed for ice. The ocean broke through anyway. Videos from passengers on other crossings have gone viral again and again. Waves crashing high enough to hit the 6th deck of a ship. Furniture sliding across dining rooms, passengers grabbing railings just to stay upright. One clip alone has been viewed more than 12 million times. People are drawn to it because it looks almost unbelievable. A modern cruise ship being thrown around like a toy in a bathtub. But every one of those videos is real, and every one of those ships is carrying paying travelers who signed up for the experience of a lifetime and got a reminder of exactly how small human engineering still is against open ocean. Not every crossing is like this. On a calm day, the passage can be glassy, still, almost peaceful, which is exactly why sailors gave it that second name, the Drake Lake. But nobody can predict days in advance which version of the passage a ship is going to get. Weather here can shift from calm to violent in a matter of hours, because there is no landmass anywhere nearby to slow a storm system down or warn ships it is coming. By the time a captain sees it building on radar, the ship may already be committed to the crossing with nowhere to turn back to. This is what makes the Drake Passage different from almost every other dangerous stretch of water people talk about. The Bermuda Triangle is mostly myth, an area with no unusual rate of shipwrecks once you actually look at the data. The Bay of Biscay off the coast of France is rough, but it's a fraction of the size and severity. The Drake Passage is not folklore. It is measurable, documented, physically explainable violence produced by real oceanography, and it has killed real people using real modern equipment within the last few years. And yet people keep choosing to cross it. In 2019, 6 rowers set out to do something that had never been done in human history: cross the Drake Passage using nothing but a rowboat and their own strength. No engine, no sail. It took them 12 days. They fought through waves that nearly capsized them multiple times, temperatures that could cause hypothermia in minutes if a rower went into the water, and winds that pushed them backward for hours after they had already rowed forward for an entire day. They became the first people in history to complete a fully human-powered crossing of what is widely considered the most dangerous 600 miles of open ocean on the planet. When they finally reached the Antarctic Peninsula, several of the men could barely stand. Modern polar cruise ships are now built specifically with this crossing in mind: reinforced ice-class hulls, deep stabilizing fins beneath the waterline, sealed decks, and captains who have made this same crossing dozens or even hundreds of times. Passengers are told before departure to secure everything in their cabin, because within hours the ship may be rolling hard enough that anything left loose becomes a projectile. Sticky mats are placed on, but to meet the waves at the safest possible angle so the vessel takes them on the bow instead of the side. Because taking a wave broadside, especially a wave the size the Drake Passage regularly produces, is how ships get rolled over. Meeting it head-on is how a ship survives it. This single decision, the angle at which a captain points the bow relative to an incoming wave, is often the difference between an uncomfortable crossing and a catastrophic one. What makes this place so hard to fully prepare for is that there is no shelter option. On most ocean crossings, if weather turns dangerous, a ship can alter course toward the nearest coastline and wait it out in calmer, more protected water. In the Drake Passage, there is no nearest coastline. There is only more open ocean in every direction until you reach either the tip of South America behind you or the ice of Antarctica ahead. Once a ship commits to the crossing, turning back is often just as dangerous as continuing forward, because it means turning broadside into the same waves the ship was trying to avoid in the first place. This is the paradox that keeps drawing people to the Drake Passage instead of scaring them away entirely. It sits directly on the only practical sea route to one of the most untouched, unbelievable landscapes left on Earth. Every single person who wants to see Antarctica's ice shelves, its penguin colonies, its total isolation from the modern world, first has to survive the exact stretch of water that has been sinking ships and testing sailors for 4 centuries. There is no other way in by sea. The reward and the danger sit on top of each other, 600 miles wide, with nothing in between but wind, current, and whatever the ocean decides to do that day. Somewhere at the bottom of the world right now, a ship is crossing that same 600 miles of water. It might be glass calm. It might be throwing spray over the 6th deck. Nobody on board will know for certain which version they're going to get until they're already in the middle of it, with Antarctica somewhere ahead of them and South America already gone behind them, and nothing to do but hold on, watch the horizon, and trust that the ship beneath them was built for exactly this. If this kind of story pulls you in, there are places just like this scattered across every ocean on the planet, each one with its own reason the water refuses to behave. Subscribe if you want to keep finding them with me, because this is only the first one.